Shantanu Sen, purely speaking as an observer, what seems to be happening is abuse of police power. I mentioned that when it's the state police uses it to arrest someone who's seen as a political opponent. We've seen cases where people are picked up at midnight from Gujarat like Jignesh Mevani and taken to Assam, allegedly because they defamed the Prime Minister. And you've got cases where the central agencies are seen to observe different rules depending on which side of the fence you are. Karnataka, no enforcement directorate, but enforcement directorate will work when the MVA government is in Maharashtra. Do you believe the problem is with the police? That at the end of the day, actually what the court had done with police reform is where the real issue is. If you had an independent police, if you had an independent CBI, an independent ED, none of these problems would exist.
Hearing all the members of the panel, the CBI is under attack, and rightly so. I do not blame the panelists here for attacking the CBI, but let me try to explain the position. CBI has just celebrated its Diamond Jubilee. Actually, CBI is older than that. CBI came in the 40s as a Special Police Establishment Act. It was then fairly independent. It had a right to choose and investigate. It had a right to verify for a long period any allegation of corruption and then investigate. And CBI has a brilliant record of investigating senior public servants and politicians right till the 80s. There were ICS officers, there were ministers.
So when did it all change? I'm sorry, if you can be a little brief. When did it all change? When did it all change in your view? When was the CBI and ED
It started changing from 1986. And thereafter, when Rajiv Gandhi issued the single directive, and thereafter the CVC Act was amended, and today CBI is actually caged. 6 July 2018, CBI has been told that you cannot investigate any act of prevention till we, the government of the day, whether it is the state or the government of India, can issue orders. And the SOP for implementing that 6 July 2018 PC Act has come only on the 3rd September 2021. For 3 years there was not even an SOP. The government could direct.
So you're saying there's been a progressive deterioration or a progressive politicization. There's been a progressive politicization of the agency. Sidharth Luthra, as someone who's been an additional Solicitor General.
Call it what you like.
Okay.
Call it what.
Sidharth Luthra, you want to respond? Is there a progressive politicization of agencies? When you go to the courts, do you sense what we as citizens are sensing today? That depending on which side of the political fence you are, the CBI and ED acts. If it is someone close to the government, they will go slow. If it is someone opposed to the government, they will use PMLA in particular and go hammer and tongs.
Rajeev, the problem, as Mr. Sen and all the other speakers have said, and you mentioned, it's not related only to the central agencies. It is now a national problem. There is a selective application of the law more often than not, and that has to do with the loss of independence. Until you ensure independent investigators dealt with by independent regulators, whether it is central organizations or state police, you will continue to have this problem.
So what's the solution? What's the solution?
As Mr. Sen
Sidharth,
says,
what's the solution? Today when the opposition went to the court says we can't issue guidelines based on 95% cases being against opposition.
Look, Rajeev, everybody here has said that all these agencies have acted based on the mandate of political masters at different point of time. If that's what all these gentlemen are doing, then clearly that makes out a case for reform. Depending on who's in power at what point, each are attacking each other, and that's what needs to be seen. The point today is really this. We have Prakash Singh's judgment. They talked about police reform. We need similar reform We need police reform, we need reform in the ED, we need reform in the income tax, we need to ensure that we have professional police officers, highly trained with expertise, they are trained, but we also need to them to report to independent regulators so that there is no political interference. Today, when people are vying for posts, when people are vying for post-retirement jobs, when postings are selectively given and the power is retained in the hands of political masters, you are going to have a problem, and that problem has only got worse.